Okay, in this video we discuss what's objective and what's subjective and how to see the object when it's derived from a subject. So basically, science is leaning towards currently that what we consider to be objective reality is actually subjective, and it emerges from conscious activity, consciousness. So science, quantum mechanics, or quantum field theory is leading towards that or alluding to that. So my argument is that there is a scale where we define subjectively what objectivity is, or what an object is. Objectivity? I don't know. I don't even think that's a word. So it's like I've said this so many times in my previous videos. When you see an atom, at that scale, you can say it's an atom, but when you look beyond it, beneath that scale, you find that there's empty space and there's other particles, and it ceases to be an atom and it becomes empty space and particles. And then you have more objects to define. When you go into those objects, again, you find space and particles, and in the end, you find that there was nothing. It was a subject. So you have to choose a scale where you define things as objects. And when you argue whether something's objective or subjective, you have to stick to the scales. Otherwise, you're bringing confusion by mixing the scales. Because just the same way as I can tell you that an atom is an object, I can also tell you an atom, is just subjective reality. It emerges from strings which are nothing. So, but if I stick to the scale where we're seeing atoms as objects, and I argue at that scale, then we can determine what else is an object at that scale and what isn't. It's a matter of context. Now, the argument that's raging between theists and atheists is whether morality is objective or subjective. You have to know the scale at which morality is objective. Sorry, my assumption is that morality is objective at a scale that is beyond what we were designed to see. So again, if you look at the work done in explaining consciousness nowadays, you find the talk about conscious agents. Now, if life evolves a conscious agent that is responsible for moral arguments or moral reasoning, then that's a conscious agent that is collapsed from the conscious superposition wave function that does exist in that context. Just like a photon is collapsed from the wave function of light. But if you can see it as both an object or a wave. When at the scale where you're seeing it as an object, you can't discuss things at that scale, then mix it with the scale where it's behaving as a wave. You can't mix the two. You have to know that it's both a particle and a wave. Morality is the same. It's both objective, and subjective. To see conscious agents as objects, is to realize that morality is objective. Okay? Because like I proved in my previous videos, consciousness, like everything else, never goes down to zero or nothing, because nothing doesn't exist. Once something is in creation, it can never be destroyed. When you are deceased, you cease to be in a plane where we can see you, but that doesn't mean that you cease to exist. Because that will mean that you go into a state of nothingness where there's nothing there, and we know scientifically at the moment that that's not something that's possible. There's no existence in nature that can be called nothing. There's always something there. Yeah. So once you know that conscious agents exist, yeah, you can also deduce that consciousness can collapse an agent that is responsible for morality. But to see that agent as a particle, you need to be at a very, very large scale, which is beyond the size of consciousness. We haven't managed to size up consciousness yet, because we talk about the global consciousness system, and you have to be beyond the global consciousness system to see its constituents as particles. Just like you have to be miles bigger than a ray of light to see it, to see the constituents of it as photons, as particles. Yeah, it's a bit like the Earth. Your eye will have to be comparable to the diameter of the Earth for you to see it as a globe, but you can deduce that it is, and you know that there is a scale. If your eye was as big as, let's say, the radius of the planet, then when you move back, you can actually start to see a ball moving. But because your eye is so small compared to the planet, yeah, you can, no matter how far you go, if you go far enough, it will be a dot. If you're near it, yeah, it will always be a flat disc to you. Yeah, but you can deduce that it's round. Yeah. So it's the same with morality. Yeah, where morality is objective, that's a scale we can never reach. Yeah. So my argument is, once you choose a scale, yeah, and you say, right, is morality an object if we're looking at length scales of atomic radii? Yeah, you say no. But if is morality um, an object if we look at the constituents of consciousness? And you can argue, and you say, well, if there is a conscious agent, yeah, that is responsible for morality, then it is an object. Yeah. So I wanted to also touch into what life, which is what led to consciousness, is really about. Is life is a spring force, yeah, that exists once it was made in nature, yeah. Um, uh, well, for me, I'm religious, so once the Almighty necessitated life, the life force to exist, life is is uh, is composed of non-living things, non-living atoms. But when they create a force, an overall bulk force, a spring force, yeah, that when you touch it, yeah, it behaves in such a way as to preserve itself, like a spring would. If a spring is in the middle of springing and coiling, yeah, and you touch it, it will behave like how life does. Yeah. So the need to preserve the spring force, yeah, is a delusional need. Life itself is a delusion. Yeah, it's an imagined need that we can define consciously. Yeah, it's as if life is trying to preserve itself. Yeah, it's as if it's trying to do that. Yeah, because when you touch a spring, once nature forms a spring force, yeah, it will act as if it's trying to preserve itself every time it's touched. Yeah, and then when it develops consciousness, it will develop consciousness in such a way that consciousness only sees and understands things, yeah, which appear to want life to sustain itself. The concept of fitness that Hoffman introduced. Yeah, so this is why through I wouldn't like to use evolution, but through a process like evolution, we've come to a stage where we're only seeing things, yeah, which are relevant to the fitness of life. Yeah. So life creates the consciousness, or necessitates the consciousness superposition. Yeah. And the agents which develop in consciousness are designed to make you fitter. Morality is one of these agents that collapses in your conscious experience. Yeah. But once it collapses, it's a conscious entity. Yeah. And Hoffman will tell you that the equations that describe consciousness are similar to the quantum field equations, yeah, which are superposition and wave function, and the collapse of which is what you experience. Where morality, yeah, people who argue against choice will tell you you have no choice, because what you have is desire that's inbuilt, and you have no control over your desires. Yeah, but you have a choice. If you have more than one desire and one becomes stronger, yeah, you choose that. Yeah, so your role is to choose between desires. If there is two desires and one path is taken, there is choice. Yeah, you can't tell me I want to go to the shop, but then there's a desire where I'm like, I don't really want to walk, but then the desire to go and get something to eat overwhelms the desire to not want to walk. Those are two desires, and I have to choose one. Yeah, if there's two, I have to choose one. There is choice. Yeah, there's two desires. Why does one become heavier in terms of density than the other? Yeah, you're making a choice. Yeah, you can choose to ignore the one that's become heavier, yeah, in your consciousness, or you can choose to go along with it. You're making a choice. You have a choice between desires. Yeah, if your desires are not something you can control, where they contradict, you have to make a choice. So choice does exist when desires contradict each other. When multiple desires emerge in you and they're contradictory, choice does emerge. Yeah, there might be a conscious agent that's responsible for choice. Psychiatry will tell you there's the id, the superego, and the ego, where the ego is like a conscious agent, yeah, that's responsible for choice. Yeah, so choice does exist. Yeah, if you look at things in terms of quantum agents, yeah, choice, morality, those are things that do exist. Yeah, so anyway, back to my argument that once you've chosen a scale where you define things as objective, yeah, don't mix it with a scale where they're not. Yeah, when you're arguing with people, you look a fool to people like me. Yeah, so where we're arguing morality at this length scales that we have been designed to see, yeah, you can't say it's an object. Yeah, but where we're looking at it in terms of what we can deduce, quantum or conscious agents, yeah, you can say that morality is a particle. It has an objective reality. Yeah, but the length scale, which is beyond the global consciousness system, yeah, is what we need to be at. And you can't do that unless you're the Almighty. I'm not going to explain to you what the Almighty wants or how he sees things or how he does things. If I knew that, I'll be the Almighty. Yeah, all I know is that I know that my morality manifests in my consciousness as thought density. Yeah, and there might be an agent that's responsible for that, and if there is, then morality does have an objective existence, but the scale at which you can see that objective morality, yeah, I don't know yet. I would say it's beyond the global consciousness system. So I hope that answers it.